a lot of people in the industry feel comfortable going from firm to firm. And I never wanted to do that because I think it's stressful on clients and on your staff.
When would you say you started having feelings that Edward Jones might not be a lifelong partner for you?
So I knew the change was ultimately coming, and I would have to make that really difficult decision.
I think the number one concern of most financial advisors that I speak with breaking away from an employee firm is,
It felt really scary, thinking like, why did I ever want to do this?
What do you feel like you gained by going independent for you and for your team? On the flip side of that, is there anything you feel like you lost, leaving an employee model?
There were 6 months where I thought, well, I've just got to blow things up.
what percentage of your assets did you bring with you?
And a lot of people ask me, and so why didn't you go RIA? And the honest answer to that is,
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. As most of you know, this podcast is dedicated to helping financial advisors find accurate, unbiased information to help them understand what life would be like at another firm, from number one, from advisors that have made the leap before them, and number two, from experienced professionals like myself who have helped over 1,000 financial advisors find a new home. Today, we have an awesome podcast. We have on Jennifer Marcontell, formerly of Edward Jones, who transitioned to Ameriprise in 2022 to launch Marcontell Wealth Management. At the time, she managed over $1.7 billion in client assets and was the number one producer at Edward Jones nationwide. Typically, when a financial advisor of this caliber leaves a firm, it sends shockwaves throughout the system of the firm, and it just brings up a lot of questions. Am I at the right place? Is there something better? What am I missing out on? And hopefully this podcast today will answer some of those questions for you, even if that answer to that question is just staying put. I have a special guest co-host today as well, Timmery Robinson, as we dive into the discussion today. Timmery recently just joined the Bridgemark Strategies team as an independent recruiting consultant like myself. And at the time when Jennifer transitioned, she was working for Ameriprise and was actually the recruiter responsible for helping Jennifer navigate the various opportunities inside of Ameriprise. Timmery, I really appreciate you being on the podcast today as well.
Great. Thank you, Corey. It's great to be here.
For all of you listening today we're just going to discuss Jennifer's overall experience at Edward Jones, what caused her to start considering some other options, and maybe how she's running her business a little bit differently today versus how she was at Edward Jones. So Jennifer, once again, thank you so much.
And Jennifer, thank you so much for being on with us. I'd love to start, if we could, with how you ended up in this business 25 years ago. How did that all come about?
So I really was a working mom, had a new baby, wanted to have a little bit more flexibility with my life than what I had presently. And I had gone to a financial advisor who worked with a big firm and talked to them about stock options that I had and that sort of thing. And they basically ignored me. They talked to my husband the whole time, and I was the person who pushed for that appointment and really wanted to have this experience to talk about like the goals for our family, what we would do long term with our assets. And so it kind of put me in the look mode of like who's serving the average family in the United States and who's helping them understand how they can create wealth and build wealth. And I read an article when I was on an airplane from a lady who worked at Edward Jones, who later went over to Wachovia. That's flashing back good ways, um, but I read an article. She was a working mom. She had twins. She was working from home and talking about how in the financial, industry and particularly Edward Jones at the time, they were trying to try some new things out and make it where, your work life could accommodate everybody didn't have to move to New York. So, 25 years ago, that was huge and really put a bug in my bonnet. So I started kind of thinking about what it would look like to be, in working in my community in a place where I had lived. I had moved there, but I never worked where I lived and I never really knew anyone there. So I thought, well, I can help people with their financial situation. I can help people plan for the future and, be a great mother. And so that's what kind of spurred me to go into the industry, is more of looking at families and where they end up long term. It's still kind of core to what I believe in, is families need someone who can work with them to build their wealth, to protect their wealth, to transition it to future generations. So it's still kind of part of what I believe, and I'm stuck to that for the last 25 years.
That's awesome. Um, so Jennifer, I've heard just from Timmery, just kind of some of your story in terms of when you were working together. You've had some amazing growth prior to your transition inside of the Edward Jones, inside of the Edward Jones system. What do you think was the secret to your success?
I think that it was, early on talking about things like planning and talking about like purpose of finances was really new and different at the time. And I kept, pushing for that kind of being something that was important. Also, that women were creating wealth and being part of the decision making of their households, at the time. And so that was part of it. Also, it was a strategy of really being selective about the types of clients that we would take on and the people that we could serve. Um, Edward Jones was great at letting me push the envelope that was there as far as like hiring team members to help me. I would bring in interns and help them get licensed. But that was something that let me have a little bit of leverage with some constraints at the time.
Gotcha. In terms of being selective with clients, what did you mean by that?
Like we have a referral-based practice, so our clients come off of referrals. So we early on, I decided, hey, I'm super busy, and in 30 minutes I'll be changing a diaper, so I should probably like make all of my minutes count. And so we targeted the clients that would fit our practice the best, which would be, that their net worth would be within a certain criteria. Their objectives for their assets would be in their certain criteria, that they would be kind of have the same value system that we had when reflection on their family and that sort of thing. So that was our target client. And we made sure that our clients understood who we served best.
Great. That makes a ton of sense. What did your team look like prior to transitioning to Ameriprise?
Prior to transitioning to Ameriprise, I had 3 licensed team members who were called branch office assistants. And so they had limited capability at the time of being able to, serve clients. They had opened some windows where they could do some basic reviews with clients, but there was a lot of limitations with them and their career paths. I had also another team member studying for his license at the time. So I was having a lot of like good opportunities to help younger people develop their skills and become great advisors. But I was running into some roadblocks with the ability to get them to the next level to be able to really help serve our clients.
Sure. I mean, with $1.7 billion of assets, I mean, you must have ran into some capacity issues for sure.
Mhm.
And thinking about that same stream of thought, when would you say you started having feelings that Edward Jones might not be a lifelong partner for you? What do you feel like was the tipping point to not only start looking, but be more serious and having those conversations?
So I always investigated opportunities outside of the firm, not because I was interested in going, but because I was extremely interested to see what other firms were doing to help clients. And so I would always want to visit and look at the technology that the different platforms offered, to look at like the structure, to look at the focus of each firm. So I have a lot of friends who work at a lot of different firms across the industry, and I was always wanting to know who's on the cutting edge of that. And so that was very interesting to me for years. When I crossed $1 billion in assets, which is around 2018, I started to have some capacity constraints, mainly around like the tradings and operating systems, being able to have some tools that would allow us to, group our client base together. So we would, when you have referral practice, a lot of your clients are referred to you by other clients. So you want to be able to track that situation. You also want to be able to maintain relationships with whole family groups. And so the system that we were under at the time would basically take your family groups and break them up and transition them to other teams. So you would be able to, other advisors would take on your clients' children or grandchildren through a system that was geared to sort of assist, but in the way it would be a negative because your team would still serve that family and answer a lot of the questions, but the assets would actually be held at another branch office. So it started running into some problems once we crossed that billion level. It's just like the system couldn't keep us serving our families the way that we thought was best.
I'd
And was
imagine
it
with
you?
I'd imagine with like 1.7 billion in assets, you probably have some, significant high net worth clients inside of, your practice as well. Did you run into any limitations with some ultra high net worth clients that you had?
Yeah, so the for sure the product selection and ability, the complexity of the planning tools were very not what they needed to be to solve the problems that we needed to solve. The asset allocation ability on the investment side was very manual, and so there were 3 or 4 different areas that made the day-to-day operations of our practice just overwhelmingly complex. And so I think these are all things that could and and are being addressed. But at the time, I was in a situation that I couldn't function and couldn't serve clients and couldn't, be take care of the responsibilities that I had in that platform.
So Jennifer, when you started looking at some of the other options out there in the industry, I know at the end of the day you chose Ameriprise. When you were looking at different firms, going through technology demos, going through the capabilities of different firms, like what got you really excited about the future?
I guess I got excited about the future because I saw that there was going to be a lot of changes that would come our way within the next, 10 years with regards to like information from clients, the ability to make the transactions a little bit more linear whenever you're onboarding clients and that sort of thing. So I wanted to be part of a firm that could actually bring that all together. And I mean, we're all improving across the industry. Some people were willing to invest earlier on and take the risk of that investment in order to be able to build a platform on top of it. So as COVID came into play, there were people who were running into it and improving their self and investing in that technology that would come out of that situation. And there were some firms that were a little bit more hesitant to do that. And also that has to do with like the group of advisors at each firm, what they're demanding out of their management, because like age and demographics are a big factor in what gets pushed to the top and becomes the most critical thing that people need to provide in order to maintain their business. And so I looked at a lot of different ones. A lot of them were wanting to improve, but had some really clunkiness to them. Any place that you went would be a huge learning curve. We met with individual teams outside of talking to like anybody that's in management, just people that you have as friends and say, what's the hardest part of your everyday job? What does that look like? So we talked to some really great teams who, showed us like what was easy, what was difficult about their day-to-day workload. And it took some time to put that together and kind of just, put together like these are the positives and these are the negatives across each one of the firms that we considered.
Sure. Was there anything like specific about Ameriprise that really just, rose to the top and made you choose them? Like anything specific?
Well, they actually were on the forefront of a lot of technology there, and they have a system where they're not afraid to risk that. And of course, they have very good recruiting.
Timmery is awesome. There's no doubt about that. Did you find it really attractive that Ameriprise had a really strong national brand? Was that one of your criteria when you were looking at different firms?
Um, I would have to say that they don't have a strong brand in my market. So that's one thing. And but that did not frighten me a bit because when I went to Edward Jones, they did not have a strong brand in my market either. I mean, I would for 5 years people thought I worked at A.G. Edwards. So so I wasn't really focused on that part. It was important to me because I needed to know that the company was stable and solid. But as far as like marketing it to clients, not so much, more of assurance for me and my team
Mhm.
that we were going to a place where we would be sustained. They would have the breadth to service what we needed to provide to our clients.
Awesome. Thank you for the input. I appreciate it. What concerns did you have, once you started realizing that, your current firm might not be the long-term life partner? I mean, what were some of the things that you were concerned about, just like thinking about the transition and like life on the other side? And then I guess the other question would be like, which one of those were like real concerns and which ones were head trash or things that didn't actually come to fruition.
I guess whenever you think about like making a transition like that, one, you have to consider it. I sat down and basically I said, look, I can just retire. That's an option. Um, I and so what are the positives and the negatives of just completely doing that would be like, well, my clients would be dispersed and my family members to people that they don't know who may have various experience levels and may not be able to serve clients as well as what I would want them to be served. So that would be a negative for everybody that is our client. It would be a negative for the people who work for me because they would be working for someone that they didn't know, didn't trust, and hadn't built uh, and a long-term relationship with to understand where they're going with their future. So it would be negative for the people that, had worked on my team. And so those were two of the biggest factors in my decision-making process is like,
Mm.
where am I going to take these people where I feel like they're going to be in a good spot to launch them to the next level, in the future years and to take my business or my practice to the next level, where it would automatically go, but without causing, something to, get too constrained. And so those were the things that I thought a lot about. I was very, very worried about about you know uh, leaving a company that had been a great company that I worked for more than 2 decades, and about the people there because I had a lot of great friends, a lot of people in management who I have a ton of confidence that they're brilliant people and doing the best job they can. Um, I went to a meeting with Bill Williams, and he was trying to show me this thing that he had made in PowerPoint, where it was talking about serving clients. And I opened up a binder that I had, and I had made the same thing. And I thought, oh gosh, our goals are really aligning because I don't even know this man, and he's like thinking along the same lines as I am about clients and about the future of the industry. And so that was a really positive thing to feel like there's somebody outside of my current firm that actually could align with my thought process and the way that I think about clients. I was concerned about the transition, just the workload of it, and not for myself because I know how to work hard. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that. But my team members, I had never really seen them work hard. So I said, I'm not afraid for me to work, 12, 14-hour days for extended periods of time, but I'm
Hmm.
really worried that you're gonna like start crying and get in a fetal position. And so that was something that I was concerned about for, other people. And I really didn't want it to be something like this was totally, you know, about doing something overall positive for everyone. Because I know that even where I was in the platform that I was in, I was probably making other people feel uncomfortable with just the service that was required for our team. And so it was all considering, the previous company, the future company, the management at both, considering our clients, our team, what's going to happen. And of course you're nervous, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to continue at the same path that I was in at the time. So I knew the change was ultimately coming, and I would have to make that really difficult decision. And I wanted it to be right. I wanted to make one decision and not have, a lot of people in the industry feel comfortable going from firm to firm. And I never wanted to do that because I think it's stressful on clients and on your staff. So I wanted it to be a good decision that would solidify everyone in a better spot.
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer, I speak with financial advisors all the time, especially top performing financial advisors like yourself. And it's so easy to just keep, the status quo or keep things as is because you just have so much momentum behind you. And I just hear the feedback all the time, like, Corey, things are going too well right now. I'm really scared to upset, the apple cart. One quick question I had for you, which I hear from a lot of financial advisors, they really have a hard time letting go of the partnership that they have in an organization. They've worked hard for it, they have pride in it, they have, attachment to it. I'd imagine you had quite a bit of partnership inside of, Edward Jones. Was that a big part of your decision that, not only did you have to take a step back, just getting your business back in order at another firm, but also financially for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, that for sure is something that you have to consider because you have to consider that your family, you're responsible for other people and yourself. So you realize that there's going to be some financial ramifications for making that decision. And I did consider it. And yeah, would I prefer to have my partnership too? Yes, I would. So, you know, but that wasn't really like an option.
Yeah.
So I had to take a financial personal, step back, obviously, in order to do what I felt was the right thing to do. And I mean, for a year, really basically 2 years, I think, it took to rebuild and restructure.
Mhm.
I mean, 2 years is not anything compared to 23 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'd have to take a step back, and that would be for, I think, anybody, for sure for me, because I was on the more profitable end, at the firm I was at, and they do a great job at rewarding.
And making the move, this must have been, a huge undertaking for you and for your team. I know you talked a little bit about the preparation for that, being the number one at Edward Jones. If you could describe just what that day one looked like, and probably more importantly, what day one of that transition felt like.
It felt really scary, and because you just don't know. And so and you go into it with, you don't have like I had no idea what was going to happen. I drove to my office on Monday morning after the transition. I worked Friday, just calling like my family, people that I knew, to say, hey, this is where we are. And if anybody that wants to talk to us, this is how they can get in touch with us. And so our phones didn't work for the first little bit because we had our phone forwarded. We had all kinds of things as far as setting up technology and stuff. And you think, well, this is going to be a total game changer. But I worked Friday afternoon till late, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning. When I drove up to this office space, there was people in lawn chairs on the sidewalk waiting with their statements to get in the door. And then it was just busy, so overwhelmingly busy, because they had gotten calls from other people telling them where we were and different family members and stuff. So it was just trying to set up the accounts, go through the rebuilding and establishment process with much better tools as far as getting our clients. information, helping them reestablishing goals, reestablishing, accounts, reestablishing risk horizons and time. It was a lot. And I really didn't feel like we were where we needed to be for, for at least a year. And then in the second year after the asset transfer, then the restructure. And I mean, our practice is larger now than it was when we left. And, we're 2.5 years into it as of right now. And we have a bigger practice. We have a lot more growth potential. We have a much better method of tracking for clients and making sure that we can serve them. We've established a planning business that we didn't have before. So we've been able to do some things that kind of changed the dynamics of what we were able to do. We're able to reestablish portfolios that are more tailored towards clients. So just a lot better spot to be in for the future. And I feel like we made the right decision. But I will tell you, there were 6 months where I thought, well, I've just gone and blown things up, that first fear but I remember starting in the industry thinking why did I ever want to do this? Because you have those time periods when you're going through that, establishing growth and, I can be a bit dramatic. So I would occasionally think, well, I won't even say it. I would think that there would be different things in the world that you could do that would have less stress involved, but it turned out fine in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge change. It's different policies, it's different technology, it's different paperwork, it's different culture, it's different everything. And I think I've had more roles in different firms than you over my career. But I don't think I've ever liked a job for the first, 4 months. There's just so much banging your head against the wall. So I try to prepare every, recruit that I work with to just try to tell them that there's going to be, it's not all roses in the transition in the beginning. And anyone else that tells you otherwise, run for the hills.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's going to be hard work and it's a challenge to make it happen. But in the end, it's it can be worth it if it's what you need to do and you're at the right spot. And that's what's really important is making sure that you do the research beforehand. You know what's important to you, what's important to your clients, your team to make sure you're in the right spot.
No, I was just gonna say I appreciate the honesty with the question. What were some of the objections from your clients, like if any, when you were having conversations with them about leaving Edward Jones? Like, what were the questions? What was the resistance?
I didn't want to solicit clients. So I would let them know where we were. And, and some people, obviously some people, they get really comfortable with just their statements. And Edward Jones has a great statement. I know I was on the statement committee that created it. So, there's some things that they do really well for clients. People get comfortable in and so it's a change. And so change is always hard. To get other people to change is always a challenge. And I think that was the biggest thing is just people get comfortable. And of course I had clients around, in different communities and stuff, and now they may have an advisor who's really close to their community that they can go to. And so that was something that people, were considering. We've had people throughout, even, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months later say, I did try to stick it out. And, they just weren't, being served the way that they wanted to be served. But the change factor is always big for people. And so making people, understand what you could provide for them is really important. And making sure that people understand why you made that decision. Because, in any time you make a decision, there's a lot of people who don't know why you made your decisions, who kind of tell people why you did.
Yeah.
And so, you hear stuff about yourself like you're dead, or you're retiring, or you hear all kinds of interesting things about yourself that maybe aren't accurate. So that's part of it.
Hey, breaking in real quick. I really hope you're enjoying this episode and finding my YouTube channel of value. If you're a high performing financial advisor that can use somebody as a guide or a resource to explore all your transition options out there in the marketplace, I'm a non biased, independent transition consultant that can help make this process so much easier for you. And another plus, it costs absolutely nothing to work with me. If you want to have a conversation, please feel free to text, call, email, DM me. My contact information is all over this episode, and I'll let you get back to it. What percentage of your assets did you bring with you?
Well, I mean, I would say like we quit measuring it after that first year. So it was between 80 and 90% that first,
Hmm.
year. And so then we kind of put, because it kind of went above that, but the market was also moving. It was easier to measure when the market was down because you could look at like what that was there. So there's not like you know, because it's coming over several months of time. And you're in, after we started, we kind of stopped. I told the team, I said, we're not going to say the word transition anymore. We're going to end it. We have done the transition and we're a year in. And so beyond that, it was just about like growth. And so that's where we are today. So we have exceeded our assets that we had there. And it is a situation. It takes months for insurance policies to move over, 401ks to re-register. There's a lot of the business that is just takes a long, long time
Hmm.
to make work the right way. And, and that would be even your personal insurance policies
Yeah.
that you own on your spouse. So, so there's just like there's part of the industry that takes like longer to move. And I'm sure that is probably better today than it even was 2.5 years ago with technology improvements. I feel like probably in the future, it won't be the same as it was in the past. And so some of the things that were a little bit more tedious and manual for us probably won't be the same way for people in the future. And so the industry has to be prepared for that, transition that will happen as technology is able to port information for clients a lot easier.
I appreciate the feedback. I think the number one concern of most financial advisors that I speak with breaking away from an employee firm is, or my clients going to come with me. And I just try to coach them through. I mean, if they've had relationships with people for, 10 plus years, they're doing the right things for their clients and building relationships like you are, the path of least resistance is following you to another firm. It's not the technology and the chief investment officer of the firm that you left that they like. It's the relationship with you. And I've
Mhm.
told the story multiple times. I had a doctor that I've been working with for 15 plus years, and he left to move to another practice. And I was so concerned that I wasn't going to be able to stay with him and I would have to build rapport and trust again with a new doctor again. Like there wasn't even a question. The path of least resistance and the smart move was to make the move with the person I made the relationship with. And I picked up the phone day one. And I think financial advisors, once they transition, they see that time and time again. But it's great to hear it from somebody like yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, so for some people, it's just important for them to look at where they are and look at their future and say, is the chair I'm in today, is it the right chair for me to be in down the road? And to bring that to the people that they work with and make sure that they're in the right spot.
100%.
And Jennifer, what would you say, what do you feel like you gained by going independent, for you and for your team? And on the flip side of that, is there anything you feel like you lost, leaving an employee model?
So one thing that we gained is I gained the ability to reward the people that work for me in a more transparent, open platform because it was not the way that it was previously. So that was huge for the people that work for me. I gained the ability to have future owners other than myself. That's also something that's very positive for people that are in family wealth offices. I gained the ability to establish a family wealth office where we could have different practices, where we can serve locally and just our community of clients across the U.S. with different tools. I gained the ability to hire people remotely that can work from different cities to serve our team, which we do. I gained the ability to have our own type of marketing, even though we had a lot of flexibility where we were. And so it is a leg up, I guess you would say, an improvement where client communication can be on a better platform. So the tools that I had to be able to, communicate with clients was much better than what I previously had. I gained the ability to encourage people to improve themselves. So, having people on your team who get their CFPs and their credentials and be able to learn more as far as like they don't have to be out on their own, but we can work together to serve clients together has been a huge boost for the education level, the competency, the I don't know, just overall I don't know, credibility for the people that work with me. And I've been really happy to see that happen. And so I think that what you give up when you're at a company is you give up the security of they do the payroll. Oh, that's so nice. They run the 401k plan, but they can't really match you the way that you want to be matched because it's a big firm. And so you can do things different when you're in a small firm as far as rewarding the people on your team. You don't have to look at like health insurance plans, right? That's kind of a pain. So there's things like that as being independent that takes some time for you to think through. But there are things that you're dealing with your clients every single day, especially your business owner clients. So these are things that we do all the time because we're dealing with business owners. We're setting up their 401ks. We're talking to them about their health insurance plans and what they need for future planning and their estate. So it wasn't like something out of the blue that we didn't understand. We do it all the time anyway. So we're just doing it for ourselves. And so I think that part is a little bit more work. Of course, there's working with a firm, you share, the profits of the firm in a big way. And that is also different. So you are on your own. But whenever, I went through the financial crisis and I remember like calling other offices just to see who was in the office working. And yeah, I was. And, then you go through COVID and you have people who are not really making it happen. And I was. And so I'm not afraid to say that, hey, like we're going to do this and we can do it independently. And we have a ton of support from Ameriprise. I can't even discount that at all because, we have amazing people. It took me probably, I don't know, maybe like a year to figure out who they were, but but I'm coming for them now. So I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like to figure out like, what department do you call for this or that? And so that took a little bit of time. And I was very comfortable at Ever Jones knowing who I could talk to. So that part of it, of knowing how to get things done that you need done, was a big change. But it was going to happen anyway, because people that over like decades, they do retire, things do change. You have to kind of reestablish things, and the industry changes all the time. So you can't be afraid of change if you are in this industry. And you have to be optimistic because we're investors. We have to believe that there's something positive in the future. So, it's natural for people in our industry to want better, to want more, to want bigger, because that's who we are.
Jennifer, to advisors that where you were, when you hit $1 billion in assets and started, picking up your head and just kind of seeing what else is out there, and that are maybe considering a transition, or working at another firm. What is your advice to them? You just going through this yourself.
I think they have to educate themselves on what's out there in the industry. what firms are, like investing and improving and moving forward. They have to talk to, advisors and people who talk to a lot of advisors about, and so that's the one thing that's really, really difficult when you're looking to improve a situation is in our industry, if somebody's looking to do something, they can't tell anybody else that they're looking to do something. And so that part of this, like there's, like someone else who's like you's, in another city, maybe thinking the exact same thing as you, but you can never share that information with each other. And so, and that's the nature of the industry, understandably so. When you think about that, it's difficult. So you have to have a good partner who can really help you, who talks to a lot of other people, who's familiar with all of the platforms that are out there. And I feel like if you have, a good relationship with people who are open to talking with you, with other advisors, that's not me. Okay. But
Fair
but I'm
enough.
just saying
You're busy enough.
yeah. But you do have to have a relationship with somebody who actually knows what's out there and knows what firms are offering, knows what it looks like. And there's still, if I had to do it today, I would know all the questions to ask that I didn't know. Because there's some things that you will still, even if you make what you feel like is a really great decision, you'll still not know everything
Yeah.
because that's the way it is. It's the same way when you have a child, you can read all the books in the world and get all the advice, but you're not going to know what it feels like until you actually are, waking up in the middle of the night and taking care of it. And so that's the way the world is you're going to walk into it with as much information as possible. And, those things like, hey, what would you wish you would have known? Like I wish I would have known, everything that I know today.
Sure.
All the tools, all the software, all the things that you can't possibly know until you're at another firm. Those are the scariest parts. Like, what are we going to do if we don't know how to use? Well, the industry is very similar across the board, so it's not that scary. I mean, the terminology is, pretty standard across the board. There's tons of acronyms at every company that's only used at that company, which is, I don't know why they do that, but they do. So be careful with the acronyms. But other like things that you don't know, compensation grids and things like that you are unfamiliar with because the industry reports a certain way and one in this company or that company does something different. Those are really important things to have a handle on, but you can't possibly experience the experience until you're actually in the middle of it. And so it's like, anything that you do in life that you've never experienced before. Yeah, you're going to get in there. You're going to figure out some things you didn't know before. If you had somebody tell you before that, this is the best formula to get for your baby, this is the best diaper, it may be right for your baby and it may not, but get as much information as what you can. And our practices are, they're really important to us. They are what we built. They are something that we take a lot of pride in. We want to know as much as what we possibly can going into it. You will not know everything, but you can make a laundry list and go to somebody who is familiar with every single firm or almost every firm. And a lot of people ask me, and so why didn't you go RIA? And the honest answer to that is we did not have the bandwidth to do that. We needed the support of a firm at the time. And going independent is different than going RIA. And maybe we could have done it, but at the time, it just wasn't what we needed to do. And so there's a lot of different options that people have. And they need to know. I just made like an Excel spreadsheet and I did all the different firms and did the different types and I just put, what was that going to take in time and aptitude and were we going to be prepared to do that? So resources from people who are in the industry and know recruiting are invaluable because they can give you and I'm saying even the people who do recruiting at each firm, they are open to talking and showing you what's going on with their firm. You're going to get more information getting your boots dirty and talking to people who actually do the work every day.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I would say is, working with the recruiters at each firm, many of them are very capable, very knowledgeable, can help you through the decision-making process, really highlight all the benefits of their firm. But it's really up to you as the financial advisor to figure out where the downsides, where the skeletons in the closet are, where the non-starters are. And, a lot of financial advisors just really don't know those questions to ask because they've only made one transition, two transitions, in their life where, working with someone that works with all of the firms, they can really help you not only highlight the benefits, but help you just figure out some of the dangers, help you go through a decision matrix, help you stay organized, help you negotiate to get the best start at your new firm. So I agree with you 100%. Well, Jennifer, I really appreciate it. This was super, super helpful. I think you're going to help a lot of financial advisors. I think so many people, have these questions, and I just really appreciate you being so honest and candid throughout this. There's a lot of benefits, but it's not all, sunshine and rainbows. And I really appreciate you, highlighting both sides for everybody. Right. I really appreciate everyone tuning in today. If you have any questions at all or want to learn more, there's another 150 plus videos on this YouTube channel and podcast that are just dedicated to giving you the information to make the right decision. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is all over my YouTube channel and my website. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. And I hope you have a great day.